Hello, everybody. Welcome to Concordia Consularis, the spiritual and business agency of peace. Today, we have another special outing focused on Africa. And we have a few subjects in mind that will come into the Spiritual Court of Equity. But without further ado, let me just bring to the fore Harrison and Derek. And I just need to figure out how to do this and do that. Move pin and ensure that we are in gallery function. Excellent. Hello, everybody. Hello, guys.
Hi, Angela.
Hello.
How have you both been since the last outing?
Yeah, I've been doing great. Enjoying working on myself and watching the circus unfold as we continue.
It's true. It is a circus. We've got ringside seats. How are you doing, Derek?
I'm doing good, thank you. Excited to be back with you on your show.
Oh, lovely. Well, I'm sure we're going to achieve infinite amounts. Now, one of the things that kept coming up before the show is the blessed Credo Mutwa, ancient healer, shaman, Sangoma. And his talents have been exemplary from his observations and his abilities as a traditional healer. And what I wanted to do is to share with you an elder story that he gave. And it's about what happened to the people in that the South, Mid and South region of Africa. And in this, he refers to deals that were done with a particular group here on Earth that prevented Africa from expanding and defending itself against the entire world and the entire multiversal groups that had a negative intent to harvest the resources of Africa. So I shall just do that, share sound, and here we go.
Name Togoloshe means the creature with a bony ridge over its head. Because a Togoloshe is a short, hairy, humanoid creature with a face that looks like that of a very nasty-tempered teddy bear. Its eyes are a fiery red, and it has got very long ears, pointed like those of a caracal wildcat, and running from the Togoloshe's forehead above its eyes, right over its head to the nape of its neck, is a sharp, bony ridge, which, it is said, will cause the death of anyone touching it. The Togolosh is extremely aggressive. It loves to waylay and beat up men who walk about at night, and it loves to use the man's own walking stick to beat the stuffing out of him. The Togolosh loves children. It reveals itself to children and is often found playing with them. But that is as far as the Togolosh's good behavior goes, because it loves nothing more than to sexually assault and even to rape women. Throughout Southern Africa, in urban as well as rural areas, our people raise their beds almost 3 feet high above the ground on bricks and on paint tins filled with earth. The reason for this is to avoid being molested by a tokolosh, to protect the sleeper from mischief done by the tokolosh. Though why any self-respecting tokolosh would fail to get at its victim on a bed, I do not know. But what is interesting is this. Belief in the tokolosh extends throughout Southern Africa and also to the Pacific Islands, where in olden days you found Polynesians building their huts on stilts as high as Africans lift their beds on bricks and on tins. And when you asked the Polynesians, why did your ancestors build such houses? They tell you that they are protecting themselves from a hairy animal which is very aggressive. And when a Polynesian described to me what the creature was that they feared so much, his description was word for word the description of a tokolosh. Question: why should people separated by thousands of miles across the wide belly of the world believe in the same creature? Answer: because the creature exists, that's why. It's not a figment of someone's imagination. Thank you very much. Our people say that tokoloshes are in themselves not mischievous, but they become evil, especially when they get under the influence of a sorcerer who then uses them to terrorize people. And in the course of my career as a Sangoma, I have met many people, some of them sporting severe injuries, who said that they had been injured by a tokolosh. And sometimes this injuring by this creature had occurred in front of many witnesses. A person who has been molested by a tokolosh becomes completely mad for about a year or so, and then the madness disappears. Many times, more times than I care to number, in the course of my career as a healer, as a Sanusi and a Sangoma, I have encountered many men and women, some of them sporting quite severe injuries, who had been injured by the entity that we call the tokolosh. The tokolosh always appears after a sipuputega craft, which white people call a flying saucer, has been seen in the skies above the community. Tokoloshes always turn up then in all their aggressive glory. And at certain times, a tokolosh will go out of its way to inflict injury upon children, especially children who have reached or about to reach puberty. A tokolosh will terrorize a whole boarding school full of girls or boys, scratching their backs, inflicting injuries upon the children on their thighs, on their backs, and on their faces and stomachs, injuries that look for all the world as if the children had been scratched by a very aggressive cat. Usually, the scratches show that the creature which inflicted them had 3 fingers on its hand. And when we were young as children, we were often scratched this way, on our heads, tufts of our hair torn off, leaving bald spots, and our bodies itching all over from mysterious scratches which needed urgent herbal treatment to cure, otherwise they turned very, very deadly, septic and deadly. I remember in the year 1946, a community of black people was terrorized by an entity which was known as Mapunapuna, the Naked One. Mapunapuna was a Togolosh with a huge round head and an enormous penis, and he made himself visible to women and to girls, scaring the wits out of them, happy to see them run. What happened to Mapunapuna and where it went, I shall never know. But very recently in South Africa, another extraterrestrial entity known as Pinky Pinky had put in an appearance. And these entities always put up an appearance at certain times when dramatic events are about to take place in the country. I do know from experience that whenever there are several sightings of a Togolosh, there is always trouble of some kind in the offing. There was a rash of Togolosh sightings and terrorization just before the Second World War. There was another just before the Durban riots of 1949, and there was another rush of such happenings before the tragic events of Sharpeville in March 1960.
Now, guys, what are your thoughts here on what has been said so far in this spiritual court of equity?
Angela, what I will say is growing up in South Africa and knowing Credo Mutwa, what he's saying is 100% correct. We all grew up as young kids aware of the Tokolosh. Beds were put on, raised 3 bricks high, etc. And also, what I find even more amazing is that he mentioned Polynesia, because I am aware that in Hawaii, they have the Tokolosh there as well. In the Hawaiian Islands, it's known as the Minahuni. And I've always said, and I'm so pleased he mentioned it in this clip, that the Minahuni in Hawaii is exactly the same creature as the Tokolosh in South Africa, and they do create havoc. And I also know a doctor, maybe 15 years ago, 12 years ago, that went to a little village on the outskirts of a forest near the Swaziland border. When he got there, he was approached with a truck full of people that told him to come and have a look, because a flying saucer or UFO had come in the previous night and everybody in the village was taken. So he's telling the absolute truth.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Now this story spreads also into the Caribbean, some Latin American countries. They'll also build the houses above ground for the same reason. And I witnessed as a child the effects of this entity on a family member. And they literally had those marks as described all over their body. Fascinating. And they tormented her for maybe 20 years plus. So what I'm getting at here is that there are specific entry points. Now, Harrison, we had a discussion about Eastern Africa, Kenya, Ethiopia, Sudan, Somalia, and that it's a specific place where we have great technology that is guarded.
Yeah.
And that these groups that came at a time, as Credo is saying, at specific points in time where there was going to be a massive change and shift. And that shifting, as we know, goes all the way back to London and Vatican and other areas. So into the spiritual court of equity, we're just going to invite all those from Chatham House, firstly. And I'd really like you both to be able to describe those beings, if you wouldn't mind.
Angela, can you just tell the viewers about Chatham House first, please?
Yeah, so Chatham House is an organisation where world leaders will go and visit and all talk about certain issues and find solutions for certain issues in their home countries. And then they return and implement the policies directly from London, basically, or surrounding area. Maybe it's Kent, I can't quite remember the exact precise location. But the point is that they're not allowed to discuss anything that has been talked about. They're not allowed to share what was said, when it was said, and how they were going to do it. Of course, you wouldn't want everybody to know your strategy, because essentially it is a business. So with Chatham House, they have always historically, since these times that Credo talked about, have had a direct input into the African leaders, who most of them are educated in England anyway. So it's interesting how this looping of colonialism, the historical takeover from beyond time allows us to remember. We're just going to start looking at what influences Africa at a policy level, based on what we have observed in the run-up to this particular broadcast. So I'm looking at those beings in the spiritual court of equity, the policy makers who whisper into the ear of the world leader.
What I will add in there, first of all, Chatham House must also be on a certain energetic ley line or intersection of energies that are making it possible for all these world leaders to gather there and to be influenced by, let's call it a cartel of beings from off planet. They're not on this planet, they're off planet, because I'm actually seeing cloaked figures in dark cloaks, but their faces are not being shown to me. So they are being instructed, the leaders, by these people off world.
Exactly. So what are they, let's ask them what their specific interest is to the average African person.
For me, what I'm picking is that the first thing I was seeing was they looked like younger souls and older souls, all younger people, and they were chatting, happy to come in this room. And then I see this huge green crocodile looking like figure walking down the stairs, and they are packed. I don't know if it's hierarchy they are using, where the older people are sitting on the front and then the younger people are at the back, and then this crocodile figure is just walking down. I think it's going up at a stage where it's like their leadership, where they have a secluded area where they sit and they're able to give whatever message they want to give to the people who have come to listen.
Okay, so what do you see Mr. Crocodile as doing and representative of?
Well, obviously, they've made a deal with these world leaders to follow their agenda. And if they don't follow their agenda, then they're going to have to face up to their consequences. And that's basically, you look at Africa, you look at people, there's so much poverty in Africa. It's really a continent where people have actually been abused. As slaves, you think of black diamonds, think of the terrible atrocities that have happened in Africa, especially when it's got to do with minerals. So it's like, get them to remove whatever minerals we need from the ground, and you do our bidding. And I'm sure that's what it's all about. It's all about minerals, the wealth of Africa. Let's rape and pillage Africa, and we'll give you power individually. Let's try and keep you there in as long as possible, as long as you do our bidding.
Exactly. So those that originate those orders, we want those beings into the spiritual court of equity, but also those who initiated contracts with these groups that feed on behalf of them, such as the Topolosh and the other ones that Credo mentioned, the ones that really damage the psyche of individuals and imprint that attack energy on each other, keeping those tribal aspects, tribal groups fighting. So we would like to invite all tribal groups here too, to this moment with Earth. Because literally, it's like, how much can a soul take of this?
What I'm seeing is that there's something special about the people in the continent of Africa. And there's a certain kind of lush, I don't know if I would call it Premium Pro, that they are downloading here. And it's paramount. They get this energy with whatever means necessary that there is, because it's a highly it's a very it's a commodity that's very expensive, and it's demand in the galactic market that's happening. And this kind of lush can only be derived from the African people. So that's why it's paramount they maintain this kind of rule on this place.
Exactly. And we did talk about these abilities of the African peoples earlier. So they had specific shamanic abilities, didn't they? Can you tell that story of Credo and the microscope?
Yeah, what happened is that Credo was talking about there was a time when the shaman that was there at that time was able to be given this information of how he could make the microscope. And they were using a metal plate that they could pour water onto, and it was able to zoom things, and they could look things at cellular level and organism level. And when this knowledge was shared, it came with conditions that they were not supposed to share it with another person. And since the shaman who was given this knowledge was not able to make this structure, he had to go and describe it to a blacksmith who could make this from a metal plate. And after this group of people was given the direction and specification, and they were able to replicate what this shaman wanted, they were all put to death. And this knowledge was only kept by the shaman, and this has come to bite the people back in their ass, because if this knowledge was allowed to spread among the Africans in terms of knowledge and a resource in terms of health, and that they could be far away and there'll be no manipulation, because it's something that would be coming directly from the heart.
Exactly. So this is a key inner skill of all those with African skin suit technology.
Yeah, what I'm getting is that there's what is called, I don't know, I can say the people of the water. And when I'm saying the people of the water, is that water has a significant meaning in terms of medicine and such. And it's like the people of Africa have this ability to tap into this level and create something magnificent using the skin suit that they have. They can be able to create things that are way out of our mind. And that's why their scientists are tapped. And when these things, big discoveries are made, their names are erased and given to someone else who did nothing to in the process of discovery. It was just a name was their name was replaced on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So all those, we're just bringing all of those in, all those beings that have been affected, the shamans, the wipeout of natural abilities and technologies are also coming into the court of equity. Yes, Derek.
What I was going to add, what Harrison was talking about, is that the people of Africa have got an innate built-in ability to tune into different energies of consciousness and connect with them to make happen what they would like to happen. So, for example, if an area needs rain, there will be someone in that area that has ability to tune into that consciousness and manifest rainfall. So it's working with the elements, it's working with nature. And obviously the people at Chatham House, that doesn't go down well at all.
No, exactly, because if they could share the inner data that they all carry, then Africa's going to be a very different place. Now, all the groups there, I'm just going to ensure that we have all the groups that were involved in the contracting of Africans specifically. And if I'll leave a link to the talk from Credo below, just so people can watch the whole story as he tells the story of what had happened with various groups throughout time in Africa. Absolutely fascinating. So I just want to get those groups into the spiritual court of equity to ensure that they release all contracts from all those who are even unaware of them. And not many people will be aware of them because it's gone so far back. And your perceptions welcome on your observations there. What's coming in?
Well, my observation is you showed us the clip of Credo, and I can tell 100% Credo stepped into the court of equity in this session, bringing together all the perpetrators. And what he's showing me is that he's shining the sunlight, and the sunlight's going to melt away all that darkness, all that evil in Africa on another level. We've been working on Africa, removing black magic, voodoo, etc. Now we're working on another layer in this session that is simply being melted away. It's like a grid that's been placed over Africa and around the planet that has been perpetrated, and that is being dissolved by the court in the session this evening, if I can explain it like that.
Derek, that's just spot on and beautiful. Thank you very much. Now, the groups that were involved in the sexual abuse programming, the ones that the Togolosh, etc., and all the other ones, and their external facilities off planet. We're just going to take a little look at those, make sure we've got everything, because they will use these certain timelines as well to access different entry points in Africa. And you were speaking, this is related to the sort of zero technical Earth gravity law that we've got in place at the moment, which isn't actually true. They use these points for their own transference in and out when these scenarios happen. So if they cannot support humanity's growth and expansion and liberation, then it's time for you to go and never come back, I say to them. And I say it, you know, I know that they're all a bit, you know, angry and a bit, you know, the energy's a bit, but
Yeah.
grumbly, to say the least.
Yeah, they are quite angry because, you know, somebody is gonna lose some money.
That's right.
Yeah, because it's a huge galactic business that's happening here, and Africans have been the core backbone of supporting this business that's happening. Yeah.
Exactly. So we're just showing that to all the African cultures, but also all the other cultures that have been trafficked in and out. They could be on islands surrounded by the protective waters. It turns into a much bigger, wider picture, Derek.
No, but as you're talking, I was actually seeing Credo stamping and signing the end of all those contracts for them to come to Earth to actually rape it with its minerals, remove the loosh, the blood sacrifices that have taken place here as well. And you said they're going to be going elsewhere. That's 100% correct.
Great. So let's just have a look at the people and their light technology emission, how they're emanating in the world, what, you know, and the separation of inner gifts and skills, like being able to translate vast amounts of light data through the body skin suit technology. You know, you've got races of healers and psychics that have just literally been shut off and having somebody else's belief system forced upon them. So let's just remove all that. And, you know, it appears as if it's sort of just layers just being pulled off, lineages and lineages of people. I mean, when I think of, for example, the Sun's bush people, they can detect water like you wouldn't believe. If you got trapped out in the middle of nowhere, you'd want to be with one of them. You know, all those super sensory abilities, you know, amazing. So that, you know, the mass separations in tribes as well has also created this stiltedness in their spiritual education. They might have been disconnected or moved on, or the family's moved on, or whatever scenario, human scenario has taken place. Right.
It looks like there's a massive technology that's using to blast a certain kind of a frequency. So even if you're not in the system as per se, like connection to the grid and all that stuff, you're deep in the Saharan bushes and what have you, you'll still be controlled by this system, and it's like a kind of a signal that they're emitting. And I think we need to blast those mainframes.
Couldn't have put it better myself. Well, we won't do it personally, but there will be support for that going through. So we won't have to, you know, dig right in and just observe it. So with that whole scene of movement and suppression grid suppression that affects the incoming soul and outgoing soul, but also creates a direct line of past lives of suppression and slavery, destined to repeat the same again until the shackles are free. So I'm asking for all of that to run through every single being in Africa, living and dead. But also saying to the Chatham House representatives is to, yes, you can give advice, but you can't slip your ideas and ideology into the mind of the unknowing. It's not your business. Now, there's a massive galactic opposition to what I'm saying here, to those that control those groups or have input into those groups. Also at an esoteric level. So I'm just going to ask for that to be released. Your perceptions are very welcome.
Well, I think it goes a lot deeper than, I know this goes a lot deeper than you actually talking about and saying, Angela. So this is an end of an era. We're bringing it to a close on the earth for the people of the earth. And it's not just slavery in Africa, it's modern day slavery as well, to a system that doesn't have your best interests at heart.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, it's the complete opposite. That system does not care about every individual on this planet living today, only what it can extract from it.
Yeah, and what I'm seeing, I don't know if it looks as black as this oil. Is it black goo? It's like there's a level of it running underground in Africa, and it's used to, I don't know if they're using it to resonate some kind of a frequency or blast something, but it's quite integral in their controlling of Africa.
I have got goosebumps, Harrison, because you've just tapped into something that is present in many countries across the world, where there are strong levels of maybe religious suppression, and it's used literally to funnel rubbish and just horrible filth into the grid and into the earth. So I'm just going to highlight all that. Wow, and I know exactly where it came from, who designed it, and it's game over. They're not happy either. It will be a bad day for them today. I pray that they had otherwise, but you know, chances are when you mess around with Earth Mother's body, you know, she's going to bring these things to the fore. So these connections and flowing dark areas really bring toxicity, you know, above and below. And people walk through it, absorb it, carry it, perpetuate it. And especially if there are other things such as programs and other forms of technology that have been added on, it creates a very messy picture. So I'm just going to bring Earth into view and just look at that. Yeah, perceive what you're seeing.
As you are bringing Earth into the view, I can see like legions of people in chains. You know, I'm being shown it's like this rivalry thing. They were put in chains around the neck and their arms. And it's like they are using that energy to blast it across Africa to resonate with that kind of an energy. And I'm informing the court to look into that and set these people free.
Yeah. So what would you, Derek?
I absolutely agree with Harrison. The court is looking into freeing the people that have been subjected to this type of indoctrination and control.
Exactly that.
Oh, and that was fast.
Yeah.
It's now raining to signify a new dawn, and there's this sunlight shining over them, and they are just spreading their arms and allowing this rain to pour and wash down, then signifying it's a new beginning for them.
Yeah. So all the lineages there, how are they shaking it off? Are they, is more light coming from them?
Yeah, I'm seeing like there's this huge sun, and there's this like a golden kind of light emanating from their faces, because I can see their faces from the side, and I can see an auric field around them, like it's golden rays coming out like from the sun.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what I said, Harrison. Credo Mutwa was showing us the sun melting away whatever needs to be removed.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
It's one of the most beautiful things about doing this kind of work is that even if you have passed over to the other side, you can still help do your bit here and help others. Now, all week, this wonderful Credo Mutwa has been showing me a lot of things that will help with not just Africa liberation, but liberation of humanity. And this is where we're at. None of us really want this. If you told every single body that all this had happened to them and now that they could let go of it, but they're not just letting go of one thing, they're letting go of the whole thing that ever happened to them personally, to their lineages, to their families, to their countries, because we all carry that imprint. So when you bring it back down to the feeling of what the people feel like at a soul level, at a human level, you know that change is going to happen when these beautiful working of just working together, you know, alive and not alive, or in body or out of body, and all for the general well-being of everybody on this planet. I think that's beautiful. We see some horrific things. You know, how do we accept when we look at that part of the court of equity and we know that those people have been enslaved for hundreds and thousands of years? It's really quite something when you see them free and being able to move in a different way in line with their natural being. It's beautiful. How do those lineages look to you?
Well, I'm actually seeing, I mean, if you look at Africa and the African, the tribes and their ancestral lineages and everything, one's also got to take into consideration people that have come from other parts of the globe beyond Africa and settled in Africa, creating their ancestral lineages. So the court is actually looking at these two completely different aspects of it.
Beautiful. And what about those at Chatham House and their other upper echelons? How are they feeling right now?
They're going to
What
try
I'm
and
s-
exert, sorry, Harrison, go for it.
No, you can go ahead. Okay, what I was saying is that there are these cords connected between them. It's like a spider web
Yeah,
forming into one location. That was what I wanted to say.
yeah, an alchemical web. Mm.
Yeah, go on, Derek.
What I was going to say is that they're going to really try and tighten the noose now, so to speak, because they make things even harder for the leaders of Africa after the work that we've done here today. So that's even more work that needs to be done in the next session here.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm just going to preempt it by explaining to all the leaders in Africa is that now you're there, you are going to look at every aspect of what you do to the people that you are supposed to be representing on a national and international level. And calling for one Africa was always an original dream where all those parts and beautiful lineages could bring together all their gifts and skills and work harmoniously with the whole continent and all its technologies.
I absolutely agree. I mean, Africa is actually one land, and people have come from basically Europe and divided Africa up and put borders that actually never existed. The borders don't actually exist. It's a man-made thing. It is one land.
Exactly. So
Not a
how
good day. It's not a good day for the controllers in Chatham House.
no, it's not. It's not. They've got a lot on their plate right now. Oh. So I just want to ensure that all the governing councils of those particular policymakers is being shut down, because it's not about well-being, it's about control.
Well, these leaders are going to have to, they're going to be held answerable for their crimes against humanity.
Yep. And I'm just showing them all. Do they know that? Or do you think you are exempt?
They know it now because the court has sat here in the session.
I'm just checking that there's a particular aspect of the behind the scenes interplay. I just want to check that that is out of consciousness. Behind them all, there's a small grouping of darkness. And those, yeah.
No, it was this huge drama I was seeing, and there was this new song that was being hit, and the ground was vibrating at another level, but at the back, at a distance I can see there's darkness around, and it's like trying to counteract the
Yeah.
frequency that's emanating from this drum. That's what I'm perceiving.
Okay, well, let's just defrag that. Perceptions welcome.
Yes, as Harrison was saying that, I was seeing Credo Mutwa with the sun above Africa, shining it brightly down onto the lands, going through the ground, through the earth, into the earth itself, just cleansing and clearing it of all negativity and interferences. And we talk about the ancestry of human beings, but what about the ancestry of the plants, of the trees, of the animals? That's also actually being negated and worked on this evening.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. It is the spirit of Mother Earth and nature.
And what has been brought to me is where they have used these plants and the animals that are here to create diseases that's really affecting these people. And their ancestral lineage is not very happy about that.
Okay, so we're going to ask Credo to just move through the family lines with the light of the sun.
He's got a list of all the family lines and all the people involved, and he's working on it.
Brilliant. No, that's going through beautifully. Oh, so how are you? What are the perceptions of the completion? Percentage of completion, please, guys.
It's about 94, 96% complete. I'll also pick up that Credo was called in the Dogon people of Africa, working with the Syrian connection, and that after this session, they will actually be carrying on working with the Syrian people and the Dogon people that have got a part to play in this in Africa as well, for whatever the reason is.
Yeah. Harrison?
Yeah, the moment you're talking about the Syrian and the Dogon people, there's this flash or this memory that has come to me about the tribe where I come from. They have this ceremony after every 50 years. When Sirius, I don't know if it's Sirius B going around Sirius A. I mean, the way those suns going around one another, and they do that every 50 years in accordance to Earth time. And the event that normally happens after that in our tribe is everybody forgives each and everybody's debt. You know, you start on a clean slate. You know, every debt is wiped out. If you have any grudge, you wipe all that out. And I think that is the same thing that's being done to Africa now.
Brilliant.
That's wonderful, Harrison. Thank you for that.
Got goosebumps. Right, just checking that everything's going through for the final.
What I will say, Angela, is that the route for the Tokolosh into the various parts of Africa, stemming into the rest of the globe, with the Court of Equity in this session, those routes have been shut down. They're being closed. So that really is the work of the session done here this evening. South African time is the closing of the pathways, the closing of the routes, the closing of the ability to transport oneself through dimensions onto the different continents to affect people in the astral is being negated.
That's wonderful news. That really is wonderful news. People will be able to sleep in their beds at night, you know? It's quite simple things. Wow. Just checking completion figures.
I'd say it's 100% complete.
Lovely, lovely, lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, so wonderful listeners and subscribers, thank you for joining us today for this Africa Part 5 series. If you would like a session with myself, you can find me at Harmony Imperfect Counsel on Facebook, or leave a message or a comment down below. There's a link to find me somewhere. If you would like a private session, that can be arranged. If you would like an in-person session, that can be arranged. Here in the UK, do get in contact, and I'll be running several events over the next short period of time. So again, you can find me down below. Lots of new stuff is happening, and of course, please do join us for the next Africa episode part 6 and we will see you again very soon. So if you'd like to reach Derek or Harrison, you can do so, and I'll leave a link below. All right, thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Blessings.